Hi,
Whatever I
Miniki.
say.
How you doing?
Hi, marvelous. You know, I'm glad to finally get to speak to you on record. Yeah. Um, for the audience that will be watching, I will just do a quick introduction of who Marv is, and then
Yeah,
we could get straight right into it, right? So Marvelous is the co-founder and CEO at GSE. So GSE is a startup that is revolutionizing, logistics in its own way, right? So basically building delivery infrastructure, right? While I would call it, saving the planet, saving Mother Earth, right? In
yeah,
terms of this, the process of delivery is there's no emission,
yeah,
happening,
yeah,
right? Marv is a software engineer, right? And you've been building solution for the past 7 years. It's great to catch up with you. It's great to have you on the show. Well, I'd like to ask you directly, and then you tell me about, who you are and what your startup GSE, solves.
yeah. Thanks a lot, Miniki, for having me on here. It's quite interesting to share, the learnings and the journey, with so many people out there. Right. So, Marv is a very young guy. He's gotten interested in the world of engineering and startups at a pretty young age, and he started to build solutions for multiple businesses. Like you made mention of, I've been doing it for 7 years. Um, so yeah, background software engineering. But then again, one very interesting perspective about me, which I consider a sacrifice, was I actually had the opportunity to get my BSc from one of the top UK universities, but I traded that for the startup world, right? So that's one interesting fact about me. I basically deferred. I was literally like 10 months away from getting a BSc and just decided, you know what, I'm not doing that yet. I just want to go build startups. And so, I've been building solutions for multiple businesses as a freelancer. Then I moved to starting my own tech solutions firm. It was called TechSoft. Then later I transitioned that to become a technical investment firm, right? Sort of my first foray into, the startup world. So the idea for TechSoft as a technical investment firm was that I would essentially help you build your solutions for equity, right? I wasn't going to collect money or anything, but I quickly dawned on me that, of course, you need money to actually keep that operation running smoothly, right? So very quickly, I just sort of shoved that off and really didn't push that going forward. And then I started a very interesting startup actually called Droneo with one of my current co-founders at Gshe, back then. So what exactly was Droneo? Drone was simply put a drone delivery solution, for businesses in urban cities, right? So the goal was how do we get people to, put their items or packages in drones, and we're able to pick it up and go deliver, right? I mean, the idea was around would we use a manned operating system where you're gonna have to employ pilots who are picking up these items, and delivering. And then there were situations around what you call policies, right, that you have to consider, right? So if you're going to have to get into that space, you have to speak with a couple of people, the FAA, right? You need to get approvals before you put something in the air, So a lot of those challenges, we look back at it, and again, Nigeria is a very wired nation, right? So you see a lot of electrical wires running around streets, So if you're gonna have to be doing a lot of deliveries, you have to be very careful with all those wires and all of that. So you probably need to build an AI system, that would detect and avoid these obstacles, right? So many obstacles. There's so many locations where for the urban cities you can have a tall building and then suddenly you're seeing a very short building, or you're flying at a particular level and you're seeing a rapid rising building, and you need to be very careful about those things. Beds as well, so many challenges, and we looked at it. This was way back in 2019, right? And so we just sort of shelved it. I mean, we started building the mobile app already. I'd that's my uh, idea of doing things as an entrepreneur, doing things that you were not naturally your field set, right? So I became a product designer actually at that point in time. I designed the entire mobile app I was gonna be like, right? And then I gave it to my co-founder, my CTO, then to build up the mobile app. Did all of that, but now go to the operation aspect of okay, we want to take this live now. The drones, let's bring the drones. And then done and also, yeah, we're gonna definitely need like a chief engineering officer to actually develop the drones because there is no drone on the market at that point in time that was designed for cargo, right? Uh, so, sorry, you're muted. Yeah,
This question was the drones, were they going to be autonomous, or was it going to be like, controlled, right?
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, this were the ideas. Was it going to be a manned drone station? We're going to have pilots who are picking up, these items, and people with like VR goggles, wearing VR goggles, and flying, those drones to pick up and delivery. That was an idea. I do want to make it autonomous. And again, there was also an issue with what they call the BVLOS, right? Beyond Visual Line of Sight, right? So if you're going to be operating a drone, you want to make sure you can always see that drone, right? It's not going to regions where you can't see it at all. So that was also another concern with the FAA. We're thinking with the FAA if we're going to have to follow through that process. It was a lot of mess, and for us at that point in time, it was just too much for us to handle. At least at this very early stage of we're just trying to get involved in the startup world, right? And so we said, you know what, let's take this at the back of the barn and shoot it in the head. And that was goodbye to startup number two, right? And yeah, very quickly, Jay came along. And then he started out as, just started out as an aggregator solution, actually,
Mhm.
right? So this was right off the back of the government ban of two wheelers for transportation, people transportation in Lagos, and so it dawned on us that there's going to be a surge of people who will take advantage of this opportunity to convert these bikes to what do you call it, to delivery bikes, right? And so you're gonna have a rapid growing SME base who are starting up logistics businesses,
Yeah.
right? So someone who buy two, three bikes, and set up their own IG page, right? And we saw this surge happen. So if you wanted logistics in Lagos back as 2019, 2020, and you wanted logistics to be done, all you just need to do is go up on IG and type logistics, in Ikeja, logistics in Surulere, and you see a ton of those various IG pages that these various SMEs had, created, right? And then you can now place your order. So there was no way to actually map a request by location, right? So, for example, I'm a vendor, and I don't want to have to go through that stress of having to chat with multiple logistics businesses on IG, right? There was no solution existing for me to just go on there, put in my pickup location, and put up my delivery location, and then have it delivered. Right? There was nothing existing at that point in time. Um, and so, like I said, all the things that existed was you have your IG, you go there, go check, and it was a lot of time wasting for IG vendors and businesses. So we thought, okay, why don't we set up a solution whereby we're able to bring in all those guys, right? Aggregate them, and then onboard their riders onto our own network. And then you're able to place a request as a vendor, a small business owner, and we're able to pick it up and go deliver to your customers wherever their location is, right? So that was the first goal at the idea at Dishe. But it really dawned on us, it was a lot of operational hassle, going into that, the training, because all these businesses had various different modus operandi, right? So the way business A works is very different from the way business B would work, right? So it was a whole lot, and again, we had to just look at it critically and say, well, it's going to be difficult to manage this, and we just have to make the right call, right? Anyways, the long story short, we pivoted the solution to focusing on a niche space, and we went into the food delivery market, right? So we said we're just going to focus on the restaurant businesses, those who are delivering food, and we'll focus on just the food businesses, right? And that's how we became a food delivery business.
So let me quickly ask you a question, yeah, because I'm thinking about it. Like, so you've mentioned a couple of businesses that you started, right?
yeah,
Right from, if I'm correct, 2017, down to now, right?
yeah,
Like, when it comes to, like, finding your ideas or stumbling upon these opportunities, like, what's the
yeah,
process for you, like, personally? Like,
yeah.
how do you go from thinking about an idea to say, okay, I'm going to put a lot of my resources, or I'm going to put, like,
My time,
efforts towards, getting this.
this idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, early on, it was a case of the first move for me was a point of demand, right? I started it off as I was doing jobs for people, they were paying for the jobs, but then again, I suddenly, looked at the space and realized that this was going to be a space that will become saturated all of a sudden, right? There was no point running that tech solutions thing again, right? Or even if it didn't become saturated, there was going to be a case where you have uh, the weeks, for example, right? Who would come up with solutions where they don't need a developer to do it for them. They just go do it themselves, right? That was the case. And so I saw that. So I sort of and besieged, sort of like a foresight thing. And I said, okay, I didn't just want to be a tech solutions firm, let me become a technical investment firm. That was what led that transition, right? So I would say from a point of demand need, right, I've worked on that lens. And also from a point of excitement,
Okay.
right, I've also led me to doing things because I was excited about the potential use of drones. I was just driven by excitement. There was no need for it at that point in time. But then again, as you learn in the startup world, when there's no need, there's no point building it, right? There's no point building it. You
So
know, you need that fine balance.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
So I'm going to also, like, sort of, like, share my own personal story. Yeah, like, so it also happens to me, right? Like, when I have an idea, so I tell people that I have, like, ideas every AK Market day, right? So in Igbo, it's like every week, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
really ideas, but before I proceed, I really focus on the ones that get me really excited, like excited enough to make that move. But you sort of, like, realize that sometimes your ideas are really futuristic, especially in this part of the world, right? Especially
yeah,
where we are, right? They're not so much complex, but this part of the world, right? In terms of the
yeah,
need, in terms of the adoption, you
yeah,
know, and then you start realizing that, okay, maybe niche it down, or maybe bring it a little bit down, uh,
to
for
the
you.
local level.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So in terms of, like, let's speak about, like, GSER, because I know you through, you know running GSER, right?
yeah,
Um, and I always ask these questions to entrepreneur, right? What is the every what was the main goal? What's the bigger picture? And how did you have what compromises did you have to make, to get going? So for us, I will tell you, like, we Rabbit Africa. So, for people listening, like, Africa is a transport and logistics startup. But the idea was to layer, transport, bring people in, logistics, to create that infrastructure, and then become an everything store, right? Because once you're able to solve for e-commerce, you can, when you have built that infrastructure for e-commerce, you can sell, right? You know,
yeah,
we quickly learned that, in Nigeria, just pick one, compromise, right? Do one thing, and then we do the transportation,
yeah,
right? So for you,
yeah,
like, what was it? What was the bigger picture, and what compromises did you have
yeah.
to make to get started?
Yeah, I would say when you look at my trajectory from when we started Dronio, right? Again, I was excited about moving item from point A to point B, right? In the fastest possible time, right? Now, this was stuck in my head. Logistics became stuck in my head at that particular point in time because I knew it was a challenge, right? And to me, it wasn't rocket science to fix it, right? Which then led me to taking advantage of, okay, there's a situation in the market right now where there's a ban on bikes. Those bikes will become,
Yes.
logistics bikes or delivery bikes. automatically I just flowed back into the logistics world that way and said, okay, if I can't do with drones, let me use bikes, right? Because that's what's on the local level, right? And so from there, I've just been tuned to the logistics space at that point in time. And for me, it was getting people's item to them. As
Yeah.
simple as that for me, getting people's item to them. So, like I was saying earlier, while we were doing aggregator model for Jishe, we were working out from an office space. I and my co-founder, at some point in time, we were working out from an office space, and we would work for so long hours that we sometimes would not even remember that we have eaten or we're even supposed to eat until much later in the evening, right?
So let
Uh,
me ask you this let me ask you this question. Did you ever do any of the deliveries yourself?
I'm getting to it. I'm getting to
I
it.
know because okay, let me let you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, these were bikes. I didn't know how to ride a bike then, So part of the excitement was I need to go and learn how to ride a bike
Right,
because I want
right.
to do the delivery myself. So I had to go. At some point in time, I did a 2 day learning how to ride a bike thing.
Crash course.
But I really didn't have that, time, to really pay attention to it. So I was just working with the partners, trying to bring their own riders on board, get them to install the rider app, and actually start picking up deliveries. But yeah, traction wasn't great, right? But this was where the fun began. While we were building, like I said, we were working from a co-working space occasionally. Um, about 3 to 4 times a week, we would go 3 to 4 times, yeah, during a week, we would go into the workspace to work from there. I'm my co-founder, my CTO. And so we would order for food for most of the time, order for a meal. But guess what? About bunch of the times the reigning guy in town at that point in time, they were not performing. It wasn't great service, right? There was situations whereby we would have to wait an hour for a meal to get to
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
right? And guess what? That restaurant would order from was literally 10-15 minutes down the road, like literally 10-15 minutes down the road, and
Yeah.
1 hour we wouldn't get our meal. Guess what? Sometimes the meal will not be delivered 1 hour after, it will be cancelled 1 hour after. You can't get the meal. And so we'll probably have to go home starving
Yeah.
because you can't get something nearest to the office location because everyone's probably closed or everything is probably almost sold out by the evening time, right? And so we experienced this about twice, 3 times. Occasionally we'd experience this. So there was sort of a ring in our head, right? There might be a problem with the food delivery space. That was when we now begin the transition because we looked at the traction we're doing as the aggregator. It wasn't really cutting it. So we then did that transition and moved into the logistics space, food delivery space rather. At that point in time, we then realized, well, how can we differentiate ourselves as well, right? Focus on the food delivery aspect. That was when we said, okay, why don't we be an eco-friendly business?
Okay.
Barrier to entry, bring it down, have young guys on bicycles riding bicycles, delivering meals, and that was it. That was the beginning of something beautiful for us. And right off the back of that, it was a very interesting time. At that point in time, then I became the first rider. I was so happy about that because then I got to be delivering deliveries on bicycles myself. So I knew I was riding bicycles from when I was much younger. So by default, I became the first delivery guy. I probably share your images of
Please do.
pictures and even maybe short clips of videos of me riding, bike going to go pick up from a
So,
restaurant. So quite a bit of the time I was literally with the riders, picking up and delivering items. So I'm usually, according to the accounts we created, my name was Starboy Runner, right? Because we usually call our guys runners. So my,
yeah.
my studio was just being cheesy, and he just created Starboy Runner. Your Starboy Runner, you're a first runner, you'll be the one using that account. So, that became the account for me to use, and yeah, became the first rider. Occasionally, I would go out in the field with the guys, checking with them on the bike, get on the bicycle with them, checking where they are, spots where they are, delivering with them. So yeah, it's
So,
been the journey as a food delivery business. But quickly
yeah.
we saw that okay, what we're solving wasn't just necessarily for just food businesses, right? We're solving proximity delivery because in as much as food delivery is, right, it needs to be done at the proximity level. You
Yeah.
can't have somebody picking up a meal in Ikeja and going to go and deliver somewhere on the island. That's hundreds, no, not well, not hundreds, tens of kilometers away, right? And
Away.
it's a lot, you know. Probably before getting there, the food is already cold. So we quickly saw that we were solving a niche-based problem in the food delivery world, but it could be applied to other businesses. And so we became Gishe, building proximity delivery infrastructure for businesses in Africa, right? So we started doing with the consumers, the customers. But then quickly we saw rapidly we could do with businesses directly, yeah, and just work with businesses, this time around. And so we like to say now that we are building the proximity delivery infrastructure for businesses in emerging markets. Although we're starting from Nigeria right now on the continent of Africa, right? So building that infrastructure for businesses to thrive at the proximity level.
So
Most importantly, while we are decarbonizing the process, so carbon free for all deliveries we do. We've done thousands of deliveries, and not even up to 1 kg of CO2 was emitted into the atmosphere for the multiple thousands of deliveries we've fulfilled so far.
that's amazing, right? For the audience that are listening, right? I I'll give a little bit of context in terms of the delivery space because I've been there, right? We did the business, in the logistics space. So from the outside, and I know Marv would be able to testify to this. From the outside, it seems easy, right? What you're doing, pick up a package and go and deliver to the customer. It's simple, it's straightforward. I will also say that logistics money is blood money, right? The profit margin is great, amazing. Where you would suffer is the headache of fulfilling that fulfillment, right? So
Yeah.
I was speaking to an investor. So we had a lead investor that wanted to come in at the time. She introduced me to an investor in Egypt, and then I was explaining the business to the investor. I said, okay, we have the transport side and we have the logistics side. So he quickly asked me, which one is profitable? I said the logistics. He said, why is the logistics profitable? Before I answered, he told me why the logistics was profitable. He said, logistics business is profitable. Where you need to figure out is your customer fulfillment. That's where a lot of startup fall, right? And it now brings me to, I wanted to add that context for the audience. Now it now brings me to your startup, GC, right? So I knew about you guys early 2021, right? Or 2021 thereabouts, right? And you were one of the first people to start, bike deliveries, right? Me, because at the time we also had like boat food, but these guys were strictly it's bikes, the bikes that release carbon, right? Carbon monoxide, right? So that's like, and it was very fascinating to me because I said, that's a really great idea, right? Using bikes. And then when I discovered more, I discovered that those bikes, it was within a short range, right? Um, so far so good. Every food delivery business is using bikes now. Your kind of bikes. Before it wasn't very common. So it,
Yeah.
it leads me to this question. I'm curious to know, you know, what were the things in terms of when you're running the business that almost killed GC, right? What were the things that you discovered that you you came in contact with that this made it much more difficult to run the business? You know,
Yeah.
from the outside, I would think maybe competition, but I would like for you to speak on that.
Yeah. I don't know if you can hear me because it's been a bit glitchy. The network has been a bit glitchy.
I
I
can
don't
hear
know
you
if you can
perfectly.
still hear. Sorry. Oh, awesome, awesome. Right. So I'll track back to, back in the days where we were, just got better solution. At that point in time, we did think the business was gonna die way back then. Because we had barely raised any money, right? We just had some very small monies to actually build, an MVP, to start
Yes.
out. right? And the traction wasn't doing so well. Investor communications wasn't, there was really no clear cut investor solution. An investor who was going to come in rather to support the journey, right? Because again, there was really nothing to share in terms of the traction. Traction wasn't doing great, so we did think this was going to die there, and that was why we like to
Okay,
say
no.
it became an interesting perspective for us when we switched the business to the food delivery aspect. So at that point in time, we did thought we were going to die, you know, but quite amazingly, it was smooth sailing from that point onward. Of course, it's not smooth sailing. Of course, we know how the startup world is. It's the crazy days, good days, crazy days. It's the ups and downs, right? But yeah, that was the first time we came near death. I think second time we came near death was again while we were building. The whole current market volatility with investors coming on board. Nobody's really looking to invest again. The cycle is really gone down. But yeah, we did come very close to death again at that point in time, right? So I needed to focus on how do we build a business to be totally reliant on revenue. That was a very tough period for us, like a very, very tough period for us. You have to go through a stage of letting go of some of your, talented people because you just couldn't maintain the payroll anymore. But you have a commitment to the business to make sure that the business does its utmost best, whatever the condition might be, to remain alive, right? So that was also another point in time. But yeah, glad we're still here, driven by our revenues, going one day at a time. Doing the good work of saving Mother Earth one delivery at a time.
So I'll just piggyback on that question and then ask, what mistakes, what were the mistakes that you made along the line, or maybe wrong turns.
Mhm.
Another way to put that question would be, what did you underestimate while it was an idea stage, while you were building? What did you underestimate?
Yeah.
For me, right, there's a lot of things, right. I would mention one, the importance of team, right? Because early on, we also had, like, I know a lot of startups also suffer this, right? We had really good people,
Mhm.
but they were not skilled people. So they put their heart into it, but they were not skilled. So at a point, you're doing your job and you're doing their job, right? They do not have contact, blah blah blah. So I underestimated the power of people, right? While starting,
Mhm.
I felt like, the idea is good. You have people that are giving their hearts out. It would
Yeah.
work out, right? For you, what was that? What
Yeah.
what were the things that you underestimated while starting?
I would say I estimated the for I mean you said from the perspective of an MVP, right? I would say I estimated the
No,
fact
it could
that
be any. It could even still be this stage. Right?
yeah, 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 yeah. I would say I estimated the fact that bike, or looking at it from the perspective of it's a bicycle, it's going to be cheap. I guess that was an underestimation I made, right? So it's
Okay.
gonna be bicycle, so it's going to be cheaper than any other thing that anybody is doing out there. We're not buying a motorbike, at crazy prices to do deliveries, just bicycles.
And they're not
But it
buying.
quickly dawns on you that they're not buying fuel and all of that. But it quickly dawns on you then when we were doing the management of the assets. So you buy the bike, and you have to make sure the bike is in tip-top shape to
Yeah.
ensure that deliveries are moving smoothly. That was an underestimation. Um, you know, much earlier in the journey. But then again, it quickly dawned on us that we needed to make some rapid changes, to that cycle. Where number one, we had to abolish the idea of using money on our budget to actually buy bikes for the guys. So we had to abolish that aspect. Another thing we also have to abolish was the maintenance of the assets. Of course, we're no longer the one providing the assets, so we need not to maintain the asset this time around. So let that cost be handled by the riders who own the assets themselves, right? So that was a way we were able to fix that underestimation or that. Well, I wouldn't call it a mistake because we were just starting out,
It's just like, yeah.
and we needed to actually put foot on the ground to actually start something,
Yes.
right? So yeah, I'll just say it was something that was underestimated. The cost that we had to incur, starting out, with that approach.
You know, I feel like that's surprising for me because also from the outside I would think, oh, bikes are cheaper, no fuel, but n- now you're explaining it, from a business angle. I'm thinking about it and I'm laughing. I'm like, yeah, that's true actually because you're getting these bikes brand new. They are not cheap,
Hmm.
right? And then
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. So
Exactly.
this is sort of like my final question as regards to your business, right?
Yeah.
What are the key lessons? What are the takeaways that I think now it's 3 years in, if I'm right, with GSA, right?
Yeah.
What are the
Yeah.
key takeaways that you would you would say you have? And also try to when I'm saying this, imagine you're explaining this to a 5-year-old, right? Because people that are watching it
Mhm.
are people that have started or people that are just starting, right? What are your
Yeah.
key learnings, right, so far?
My key learnings, the most important so far, which is something that I believe for any entrepreneur to thrive in Nigeria,
Yeah.
in particular, is you need to develop tough skin, right? You need to develop a very tough skin.
Yeah.
You've got to have the grit. You've just got to have the grit. It cannot be overstated. It cannot be overstated.
Because Nigeria will
Again, I've come near death twice. It was all great that got us out of that. I mean, it could have been easy as giving up and say, we're not doing this anymore, right? But grit, resilience, right? So, telling a 5-year-old who is feeling tired from school work, right? I don't want to do assignment and all of that. Just persevere. Very soon you'll be out of primary school and you face the real world.
yeah.
If you need to develop that grit at that very small age because it will really help you, as you grow old to become an adult, right? So,
Mhm.
um, anyone who's looking to get into entrepreneurship, if you really feel you need to do it, one thing you must be ready for is get ready to develop a very tough skin,
Yeah.
like a very tough skin. I'm not talking of something tougher than crocodile skin this time around. You must be very tough, Grit, resilience, perseverance. That's my learnings. That's my learnings over the past 3 years. You just got to have a combination of those three skill sets. That grit's got to be there. You've got to be resilient. And you just got to keep going. Because nobody ever became great by quitting.
True.
Nobody ever became great by quitting. Great people don't quit, and
So
also great people know when to quit as
they know
well,
it.
right? So you need to know when to quit a particular model, right? It might not be the entire idea changing. It might be a broken model, right? I mean, I stated it earlier. We started G-Share from aggregator, then to food delivery, right? But now we're doing proximity delivery infrastructure as a service for multiple businesses this time around. And it's quite interesting. In fact, right now we are faced with more demand than the team can handle.
Together.
So you've got to know when to quit a particular model and switch to a far better model, right? That's one thing you've also got to keep at the back of your mind as you build, right? And be ingrained in your business. Know the ins and out of it, so that nobody can tell you don't know what you're saying, right? The deeper you are in your business, the more you become, a field expert, right? Tomorrow I can get on a bike and still go do deliveries. In fact, one of the things that we're looking to do in house is to ensure everybody in the company at some point in time in the year, right? Sort of like an HR policy we're looking to set down the line is at least one person you must get on a bike and deliver. Even if it's a 200-meter delivery, you must do it.
Yeah.
No matter how you are in the company, you know if I and my co-founders can get on a bike and deliver, if you're coming in, you must be able to also do it as well. Because we need it to have that perspective of
Yes.
what we are doing as a business.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? We're helping businesses reduce costs for delivery. What does it mean to the guys on the ground, the field guys, the people who are actually doing this delivery? You need to also experience what they experience as well, right?
Yeah.
So, again, great
Totally.
resilience, perseverance. Those are my learnings. Those are my learnings.
The network, the network is really playing. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. I also want to add one thing to what you said, and this is my own personal takeaway, right? You also have to learn how to live and live, dine, and sleep with shege, right? That if you're building it from Nigeria, right? So because we're running this at a time, no cash. We didn't have any cash. But the strong men on the streets, I'm not going to call their name. But those, if you're in Lagos, you will know the people I'm talking about. Strong men on the street that collect money, Owoda, right? They were still collecting money from
Yeah,
our hand. And for me, it's so we pay directly to their heads, right? And that gives us passage.
yeah,
They're like our Egbon Adubo. That gives us passage for like 2 months or so. I was
yes,
drowning in I was struggling to pay salaries, but I still had to settle these people. So, you know, it's just know
yeah,
how to deal with Shege, right? Shege will come at you as
yeah,
long as you're building Nigeria. I don't know about other people, but for Nigeria, yeah, you know,
yeah,
it's just a takeaway. So, just at some point it became funny. It's like something that we laugh about, right? So, you know,
yeah,
I totally feel what you're saying. You know, ask you, right? This is outside your business, is when starting out, what's the one important thing? I know you're a product person, so I'm asking from a product perspective. What's the one thing?
yeah. Focus on the problem. Focus on the problem.
Network
That's what I
Joe.
would say. Focus on the
And it's
problem.
working here.
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hi, Eminike, can you hear me? Okay, good. So my first, my probably my only tip is focus on the problem. Focus on the problem. Um, Nigeria or Africa at large, actually, the continent as a whole, is a country filled with problems. What that means is it's a country filled with opportunities.
Yeah.
Don't look at it from the negative perspective. It's a problem. Yes, that's a negative thing, right? But problems, they need solutions. Every problem needs a solution. So you need to develop this optimistic perspective as an individual, right? Who wants to go into solving or who wants to go into the startup world in Nigeria or even Africa at large, right? Look at the problems. Look at that one that almost personally relates to you so that you're doing it from a point of, I felt this pain myself, so I actually want to fix this problem for others. Of course, when you're solving the problem, it means you're still solving the problem for yourself, but you're solving it for a lot more people than just yourself, right? So focus on the problem. Again, the continent is filled with problems, so it means there's countless and boundless opportunities and you know tons of ways to make money. Of course, when you solve a problem, you're providing a solution, and it's of course, it comes with charges and all of that. So you make money in the process. So yeah, that would be my own advice. My own tip: focus on the problem and just go solve, and just go solve. While you're solving, it's going to be difficult, right? But just hang in there, grit, persevere, and just be resilient. You would get to that light at the end of the tunnel. Just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going. You'll get there.
That's amazing. I wish someone told me that, when I was starting. For me, when I was starting, I just had the idea and I calculated all the billions I would make. It was fun. Very much, Marv. This was really amazing. Right. I said I was going to steal you for 25 minutes. We're way past that.
Yeah.
But thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Forward to hearing more about what Gisa is up to and seeing more
Yeah.
about you. Because I used to follow you in the press, so seeing
Mm,
more on the press, right?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
this was really fun for me. Thank you again. Right.
Thanks a
Uh,
lot for having me. Really, really did enjoy my time. To be honest, recalling back the memories and sharing, it was a good one. It was a good one.
okay. So
Yeah.
we've come to the end of the show. If this was any value, this was value to you, right? I would like to urge you guys to subscribe, right? Hit the like button, and share with family, share with friends, right? Share with that person that you know is building out something that is quite interesting for you, and you just want them to hear from the people that are actually doing. A lot of people come and give advice they have not done. The people that someone is actually doing, right, and is telling you about his own experience. So thank you once more, Marv. This is the end, and look forward to catching up later.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.